There is a very different energy when someone is already operating from the identity of what they are in the process of building. Identity, identity, identity. You hear me talk about it and write about it and talk about it and write about it. So let me just tell you why identity is everything. There is a very different energy when someone is already operating from the identity of what they are in the process of building. Now think about what I just said, because this is the key. I saw it over and over again during my years working with Bob Proctor. Here's a classic example. We were designing a week-long program called The Matrix. It was a week-long immersive experience where attendees would work directly with Bob on their business ideas. We wanted people to arrive with fully formed concepts that needed a lift-off, and we wanted people to show up with nothing more than a sense that something was trying to come through. And as we stepped through the idea of building what would become a monolithic pillar in his company, I threw out a crazy nuts idea. If they were going to get to work with Bob all week long, let's treat them to a catered lunch at his house at week's end. I told him that we would bus them all over to his house on Proctor Lane, no less, and let them just hang out with Bob, sit in his kitchen where he and I would regularly drum up ideas, take photos of themselves in his study, play pool with him downstairs. Nobody in the industry was doing this, but that's not why I recommended it. I knew that people would be completely over the moon about it. It wasn't because Bob lived extravagantly in a gigantic house and that it would impress them in some bling way. Quite the opposite. He lived very modestly. But this is where it would click for them. They weren't just learning from him anymore. They were immersed in seeing it and feeling it and placing themselves inside that reality with Bob Proctor. I remember watching Bob ponder this bizarre, crazy nuts idea. Pondering is a great place to be because your imagination has seized on a new idea and you're turning it over in your marvelous mind before your reasoning mind has a chance to shake some sense into it. So I was sitting there just watching Bob build the picture in his mind. It was a wonderful pastime for me. And he was seeing himself in the frame of this accomplished result. And I figured it was my moment to throw down the next crazy nuts idea. I told him that we would film his invitation to the Matrix, this new program, from his kitchen. Now that's when Bob's reasoning mind tried for just a nanosecond to take back the scene. He looked at me and said, rather incredulously, "You want me to do what?" And then he laughed out loud, his big, billowy laugh. And then he did it. We filmed the invitation right there in his kitchen, and the program sold like crazy. But here's the part that most people miss. It wasn't the kitchen. It wasn't the structure of the program. It wasn't even the access. It was that Bob was already the person who could move on an idea immediately. No hesitation, no overprocessing, no need to get ready to get ready to get ready. He recognized the move and he stepped into it because he was already living from that higher identity that already saw it done in a magnificent way. I've seen that same pattern in other high-achieving clients. With Craig Proctor, then the #1 real estate agent in North America, and now the world's leading real estate trainer. With Jay Abraham, when he elected to take on random, complicated questions from a lineup of audience members, knowing he would be able to answer every single one of their queries with a mind-boggling solution just for their business. With major brand launches, I've worked with high-level operators making unconventional decisions that ended up generating millions. I've noticed, too, that they always have a sense of humor about it. The new idea to them is not a dangerous idea. It's not a risky idea. It's not a what would the industry think idea. They chuckle, they light up, and they say yes almost immediately because they already see themselves there in the result of that new success. This is identity. See, most people are trying to improve their strategy. They spend piles of money on the done-for-you programs. They attend a litany of seminars. They have a pile of books and notes and journals everywhere. But strategy does not move because of tools. Strategy moves when the person does first.